high school student government has helped you bring even more student perspective to the school board. You are a natural leader and gifted connector. You have made a significant impact on our school's climate and the overall experience of students in our district. And while I'm certainly sad to see you go, I know that the impact from your time on the board will continue to serve us well into the future. Tommy, I wish you all the best as you continue to serve on the board, and all the best in Maine and beyond to Tufts in the fall. Thank you so much, Tommy. So I don't know if others have things they want to add, but we also have a gift.
I would just second all that and very much appreciate your sense of humor and your clarity and your insight. Thank you very much.
I would also just say that I can't think of like a better person to be like my mentor especially through the beginning. It was really helpful.
Tommy, I just want to thank you for just really bringing student voice and feedback to the board. And I feel very lucky that I got to meet both you and your brother through student representatives.
I would love to say thank you for your help on the Community Engagement Committee. It has been such a joy to have you there. You have boundless energy. It's wonderful to have you here. I'm excited for you for next year.
Tommy, it's been a pleasure. I think we've served on a couple different things together. Your pushes, your thought, but just you're like the first one to always say, "I'll do it," and you do it. You take care of everything. And I've never thought of you as the student rep, but a completely equal member and thought partner. And you've continued to impress, and I know you will do that moving forward. So Boston's lucky to have you. But if you watch on YouTube far away, make sure you write in and let us know what we're doing wrong, okay?
Well, thank you guys so much. I feel like the past 2 years have been so formative, and I've learned so much from each and every one of you and from the experience as a whole. I feel so privileged to be able to have had this opportunity, and I'm super excited to continue with work the rest of the year and also see everything that the board does in the future. And you guys have always made me feel so welcome. So thank you so much.
Great, thanks.
Actually, I did want to weigh in here, and thank you, Tommy. This is going to sound like hyperbole, but speaking for myself and probably some of the other board members, you are an inspiration, because I swear you have more hours in your day than the rest of us. Like, when there are things getting done, you are always involved, like registering your fellow students to vote, and then I'll look at Instagram and there's a picture of you doing cross country or something like that, or swimming. It's truly impressive, and it's a reminder to all of us of why we're doing it. We're producing some really great kids here, and you're at the top of the list.
He's doing 2 spring sports, if you didn't know that, track and tennis. Just want to throw that out there.
I was going to say, Tommy, thank you for everything you've done and all your contributions. Can't imagine not having a Leggett or a bar on the board. We've had one for so long, so you're going to have to find somebody else. But thank you for everything you've done. Your positive contributions, you're so connected to other students too, and I think I've seen you in student government and student council a few times, and so connected, and that voice is so important on the board. Thank you.
All right, we will move to approval of minutes. Can I get a motion to approve the minutes of April 22nd, 2024 as presented?
So moved.
Thank you, Megan. A second?
Second.
Christina? Any questions, corrections? Right, all in favor?
I have to abstain.
Oh, Kim's abstaining. Great, thanks. And then can I get a motion to approve the minutes of May 9th, 2024 as presented?
So moved.
Thanks, Tom. Can I get a second?
I'll second that one.
Thanks, Kim.
I was there.
Any questions or comments? Great, all in favor? Unanimous. All right, so now we're going to move to public comment, and I just wanted to remind people, because we have a public hearing today as well on the proposed school and campus project, there'll be 2 opportunities to speak. So we have the public comment now, and the instructions that I provide now will also apply during the other section on the agenda, which is the public hearing. But you will have 2 opportunities to speak. Any topic now and then on the school project during the second time. So the board welcomes and recognizes the value of public comment, and to ensure public comment is fair and orderly, we follow procedures outlined in our board policy, BEDH, and we ask that all members of the public do so as well. We follow this policy to help keep the meeting civil, respectful, and productive. We also hope this allows for all community members who would like to speak to be heard. We ask that speakers use the designated podium when making their comments and speak into the microphone. If you're interested in speaking, please wait until recognized by myself, the chair. Comments by individuals are limited to a maximum of 3 minutes at a meeting. A clock will be visible on screen to help keep track of time. After 3 minutes, the timer will go off and your comments should be wrapped up. Please state your name and town of residence before beginning your remarks. Residents and staff members will be given priority over non-residents within the allotted time. Our policy allows for 30 total minutes of public comment, although that can be modified at the discretion of the board. As a reminder, public comment is not a time for discussion, Q&A, or debate between the board and speakers. Rather, it is a chance for members of the public to express their opinion on school and educational matters. The board will not comment on remarks made by speakers during the public comment period. Please know that this does not mean we are not listening and does not express any agreement or disagreement with your statement. And lastly, please keep comments respectful and civil. We are neighbors here. Be kind. That includes members of the audience. Please do not interrupt or respond to a speaker's comments. We also ask that comments are addressed to myself, the chair. Please do not direct comments at or about individuals in our schools or community. And I will stop any comment that is contrary to these rules. And individuals who disrupt the meeting may be asked to leave. All right. I would like to welcome anybody here who'd like to speak for the public comment. Great, thank you.
You didn't say, do we identify ourselves here?
Yes, name and town,
Maybe you
please.
said and I didn't catch it. But Bruce Sherwin,
Thank you,
Cumberland,
Bruce.
live on Blanchard Road. I'm here to talk about the new school project. And I found out today that in the forecaster is a full-page ad for this school vote coming up. I found out that the school paid for it. As a taxpayer, I'm very unhappy my taxpayer dollars are spent on advertising. Very unhappy. Second of all, in the ad, there is no mention of the turf. That is a controversial part of this vote. That is unacceptable to hide it from the voters and not mention it specifically. There are a lot of people that are, this whole vote thing is not handled well at all. I'm very disappointed to the point of being disgusted with the town council, with the school board. There's 2 controversial items on this referendum. I've read the referendum. I've actually voted already. The turf is way in the middle of it. It's hidden in that thing too. And the 2 controversial items, it's okay for people that are in favor of both. It's okay for people that are not in favor of both. But somebody like me that's only in favor of one of the 2 has to make a decision. People that want the school but not the turf, or vice versa, want the turf but not the school, they got a problem. I had a problem. But it became easy because once you say no to one of the 2 things, you say no to both. And I voted no on the referendum. And I know a lot of people in West Cumberland, my friends and neighbors, that are upset about this stuff too. So I'm hoping that this referendum does not get passed. I think the school board needs to learn a lesson from this. This was very, very poorly handled. And again, my taxpayers for a full-page ad that does not explain the issue totally, unacceptable use of our money. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else like to speak? I'd I'd like to close public comment.
I just wanted to make a comment, because it's brought up, that I had planned to donate the funds to pay for the advertisement. So I would be giving a check to pay for that advertisement so the taxpayers would not have to bear the expense personally.
Okay.
I think that has to say about that on the bottom of the ad. Who pays for it?
So I'm sorry, we're out of order. I know that during the, we have the proposed school and campus project, that we have some more opportunities to talk about the project. But for public comment, I believe we're closed for public comment, if nobody else has any comment. Okay, thank you. So now we're going to move to a presentation on the proposed school and campus project. And as I mentioned, it will be followed by the public hearing. We'd like to invite Steve Blatt and Associates up for the proposed school and campus project presentation. Oh,
Nope, this is a summary presentation this is a statutory requirement that we have this public hearing. And obviously we need to provide a summary of the project and the budget as part of this. So Steve Blatt from Steve Blatt Associates and his team will be presenting the summary of the project.
Hello, everybody. I'm Steve Blatt, the architect.
Steve, can you just make,
Steve
the
Blatt,
mic?
the
Thank you.
architect with Doug Breer in the glasses. And this is Pat Carroll. Pat Carroll is our primary consultant because site planning and site design is so critical to the project. Andy Johnston is our civil engineer. He deals with stuff underground so that not only don't you see it, we hope you don't feel it. Pat and I want to do a very quick summary of the project. You've all heard it many, many times. So Pat will start with the site, and if he goes too long, I'll nudge him, and we'll go as quickly through the building. Thanks.
Thanks, Steve. My name's Pat Carroll. I'm landscape architect, land planner, and I've been working with Steve on this campus for well over 20 years. It all started back with the middle school. Can you hear me now? Perfect, okay. So we've got a lot of experience on this site. We understand the campus very well. We were instrumental in the original master plan for the campus. And really what we're doing here is this is really the final culmination of a master plan that was really envisioned more than 20 years ago. I'm going to talk really briefly about kind of what the components of this project are, and then I'm going to turn it over to Steve, and he'll talk in more detail about the specifics about the building project itself. So there are really, I think, 4 components to this project in looking at it in an overall context, and of course the largest and the most important is the new school. The new school is located in the northwest quadrant of the campus, and its location there is really made possible by the acquisition of some land from an abutter, the Wyatt family, and a sliver of land from Mr. Campbell, who owns this adjacent property here. So, whoops, I'm sorry. So that's the new school project. There's some construction that's associated with that that's not part of the school, but it's really critical. And one of which is that we are relocating the maintenance facility. The maintenance facility currently is located in this location right here. As you can see, it's really kind of in the way of any future construction of the school. And so we've looked at the site. We know it needs to be on the site because of the requirements for easy access and the ability to respond to different school functions. We found a location down here in the kind of the mid-eastern corner of the property between the pool, high school pool, and the game field. And it's down in this corner here. It's really out of the way. It's a much better location campus-wise than where it currently is. And it'll be tucked in this back corner. All the exterior storage will be hidden behind the building, and we think that's really an appropriate location for it. And that's going to be one of the first pieces of the project that actually gets built as the project moves forward. Associated with the new school is some internal circulation that currently what happens is we come in off the main street driveway here, and it loops up and through the project like this. And what we're doing is actually rerouting that main drive through the campus such that, we are allowed to dedicate a certain amount of parking and circulation specifically for the new school. That will still allow student parking to occur in the parking lot adjacent to the PAC, and we're actually adding some parking adjacent to the PAC between the parking lot and the track where the existing detention basin is. We're going to provide underground storage at that detention facility and then park on the surface of that. So we pick up about 35 parking spaces here. There are a couple of off-site improvements that are proposed. The first of which is a widening of about 1,000 lineal feet of Main Street. As you know, there's a traffic issue there in the morning when cars are trying to pull into the school parking lots, and people are trying to drive westerly on Main Street to get into Portland, and there's some congestion there. So our traffic engineer, which is Squirrel Palmer, who are also the city's or the town's civil engineers, have recommended that about 1,000 lineal feet of roadway there be widened about 6 to 8 feet, which would then allow a turn lane and a through lane for traffic on Main Street. On Tuttle Road, there's about a 3-block section directly across from the middle school, or I'm sorry, not the middle school, but the Mabel Wilson School, where a sidewalk on the west side of the street would be located. That sidewalk would connect between two pedestrian-activated crosswalks, one by the administration building and another one down at the middle school drive. So those are the important criteria about the existing school or the new school. There's a couple of other activities that are part of this project, one of which is, and Steve will talk a little bit more about it, there's some renovation and expansion at Mabel Wilson. So there'll be a 4-classroom addition to Mabel Wilson located in this corner. And then there'll be some extensive renovation work inside the building to bring it up to code and so forth. And Steve can talk a little bit about that. And then finally, the last piece of the puzzle here, which was just previously discussed, is the turf field. And that turf field would be renovated within the existing boundaries of the field itself. We're proposing a new turf field there, which is an artificial turf field, along with new fencing and lighting in that location. So those are the major components to the site. You can see that we have kind of touched a lot of the existing campus, but we think that once completed, it's not only going to provide for the new school and those facilities, but it'll really enhance the overall capacity and character of the campus itself. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Steve, and he can talk a little bit about the building.
Thanks, Pat. Well, as we've mentioned several times, our proposal for the new school and its design is impacted by the shape of the site. Because we have a boundary here that when we were able to purchase Wyatt's property, the boundary disappears, we could move the school a bit this way. So as you enter the school site, as Pat mentioned, this is a much more gentle path through the campus. Excuse me. And as you, it's a very sensitive computer. I just move and it changes. Okay, so, see, told ya. So, this is the front entrance to the school. The buses come in and do this. And inside the bus lane is a drop-off lane, very similar to the way the middle school works. The staff parking is here, and service is here, and more drop-off pickup for parents is here. So parents can drop off here or here. Everybody must go to the front door to come in. And just in general, this wing has the multipurpose room, the cafeteria, the satellite kitchen, and 2 large classrooms. This is play yard for the youngest children. This is yard for the rest of the children. This is designed to be a 500 student school. It can actually handle more than that, but it is pre-K, K, and 1. We've given each of the grades a zone so that once you come in the front door, under the eye of the front office and the principal and the nurses clinic and the staff break room, they're all staring at everybody coming in. And when you come into the vestibule, you cannot go into the school except at the very beginning of the school when everything's open, and the end of school when it's open coming out. But you must go into the office before you can enter the school. In just general terms, the yellow is circulation. This takes you into the multipurpose room for a meeting. These are 2 classrooms. This is the cafeteria. Students can go from cafeteria directly out to recess, or they can actually come in from the recess to the cafeteria. We have a general access through the whole school, and then we have made sure that there are no long corridors that seem to never end. There's a stairwell and an exit at the end of each. There's an entrance exit for the playground here, which will always be overseen by staff. This is all youngest children. This is the 200 students in the first grade broken over these classrooms, and directly above these is, excuse me, this was K, pardon me, this is all K, directly above them is the first grade. So, all of the corridors are short. There are groups of 4 classrooms, 3 classrooms plus what we call a flex, which could be anything, and 4 classrooms. The same on the second floor, and we have 4 pre-Ks plus 2 expansion Ks, pre-Ks in case the project grows. This is all front office. This is our library with support space and a wonderful round reading room. The school is about 75,000 square feet. It's mostly 1 story. There's about 30% of it second story. We are now looking at these mechanical penthouses, which we're going to change and make them less obvious. This is the multipurpose room, which we have at request made larger and taller so that it is very close to the size of MIWs. That's really the essence of the school. We've tried to take a 500 student school and make it into smaller groups. There are staff offices and consultation rooms and small group reading rooms all through the school. So let's see what else we've got here. This is what it looks like approaching. In fact, there's the front door, and here's the bus loop. And here's staff parking very close to the front door. This is actually an exit from the multipurpose room so that students who are being picked up by their parents can actually wait in the multipurpose room, come out, and wait for their pickup under a small porch. So we've tried to think of everything in the school that can make the students and the staff very, very interested and supported by the building and by the site. The kids spend as much time in school as they do at home every day. So we wanted it to be inviting. You'll notice that all of the first floor is, all of this first floor is one story. The only part of it, the only part of it that's second story is set back. So we're looking at scale and color and daylight, the size of things. This is going to be scaled down to these students. Okay, this is Mabel Wilson, just quickly. Currently, the buses come in and drop off here. This is Tuttle Road. Now we're going to bring the buses in here, and the parent drop-off will be here, so that this will be much more organized. Right now, this area across from the administrative building is a zoo at the beginning and the end of school. So we're going to clarify that. And I want you to know that the addition is going to be a very small 2-story addition with 2 classrooms and a small group room, small group meeting room, and a small office or testing room on each floor. This is what it looks like. This is the existing, which stops right here, and this is the addition. We should be able to build this addition while school is still in session, and the students even in these 2 end classrooms. This is the rendering of the maintenance building. The pool is over here, and that's the turf field. And so we have a series of workshops and offices and space for 1 truck to be in, a sand truck for winter. And then we have a taller space for the bigger land machines that are used to plow and mow and irrigate and whatnot. So, should we go over the budget, or would you like to do this, Jeff?
No, you can.
Okay. Our budget for the project, as I mentioned, it is 74,500 square feet. This budget includes the new construction of the maintenance building, miscellaneous improvements to existing facilities. We're doing some things at each building. We are reorganizing the on-site campus vehicular circulation. We have included the synthetic turf field, and we have off-site improvements, both on Main Street and Tuttle Road. All of these have a long way to talk about post-referendum. We're hoping the referendum is successful. We really want to be able to build this with you. We are hoping that if everything is well, we will be out to bid a year from now and starting construction as soon as school gets out in 2025. It'll take us about 18 months to finish everything, but I want you to know that the project budget of $53,492,000 includes all of this. There's nothing left out. And we have had a good amount of time to think it through. We've had terrific input from you, members of the board, staff, administrators. Jeff and Scott have been very well involved with us. We're very appreciative that we have a chance to work with you. My students, my kids all went here to school right through, and we hope it'll succeed, and we're pleased to answer questions.
Great, thank you. And I also want to mention that we've also had a number of community meetings that you've joined both in person and remotely, and we appreciate that. Thank you again for bringing us through this tonight. I do know, as was mentioned earlier by state law, this is the public hearing, although we've already decided on the ballot language since the ballots are now available for absentee voting. So that's all set in place, but this is the public hearing. So what we're going to do right now is allow any board members, any questions, comments that the board would like to bring up at this time, and then we'll open the floor back up for any questions or comments from the audience as well. So I'll just open it to board members to see if they have anything they would like to discuss. Okay.
Steve, can you just go over the lines 11 and 12 of the budget, the bid contingency of 5% and the project contingency of 5%? There's some confusion about whether that's enough, truthfully.
Okay. I must say this is as a result of our doing 60 public schools in Maine in the last 30 years, and this is what the Department of Education has always required. A bid contingency gives you a 5% buffer, or almost $2.2 million that you can spend at the bid table if bids come in high. And actually, in renovation projects, it's usually a little more than that, but this is new construction, the majority of the expense. And then the second contingency is during construction. So if there's a discovery underground, or if your architects, believe it or not, have made an omission or an error. And so these things are covered so that hopefully construction can start and keep going so that we can meet our schedules. But those are not overly generous contingencies. In fact, we employ a cost estimator, independent of our firm, who lets us know at many stations on the project how we're doing. We send him our progress drawings. He carries even more contingency because certainly recently construction costs are ridiculous. I mean, excuse me if your builder's in the office, in the room, but construction costs have just skyrocketed. Started in COVID, and because people left the industry, builders, it's hard to find labor. So not only are materials very expensive, but labor is expensive. We will be putting this out to public bid. Anyone who is qualified can bid it. They will have to submit their qualifications to us for review. They will need to have had experience. But I think it's wise to have a contingency all the time.
And you're confident that 5% each way, so basically 10%, that is, you said it's a little generous or maybe not generous?
Well,
how confident are you in that number?
I'm fairly confident. We have adjusted our budget several times since our introductory sessions with you, because we've included a wide array of projects. Our budget has increased by almost $4 million since we started. We were aiming to come in under $50 million. But I think this is a well thought through and fairly very comprehensive proposal. It does a tremendous amount to our schools. And I'm okay with the budget.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Steve, I have a question about parking.
Yes.
Can you get that picture that shows the overview and the parking lot?
I'm going to try.
Okay. That's currently, the parking lot that is currently, yeah, that one. Okay, so I don't mean to be stealing any senior or upcoming senior person's question or anything, but knowing we've taken parking from that lot, is that drainage ditch going to be covered like we talked about? Is it a future cover? It just looks like it's still sort of a ditch over there.
No, this is fine. So we're talking about the drainage swale that's between
Right.
the parking lot. Yes, so the idea on that is that will still function as a detention basin area, but it'll be structured. So there will be underground structures in there below the parking lot itself. So that's how we're going to accommodate that, and I believe there's about 35 parking spaces that are added in that session. Above that,
And over the whole thing, or?
yes,
Okay.
yes.
All right.
So as far as the overall parking on the campus, I think we're also adding about 80 to 90 spaces to the campus itself over what's here now. So clearly, some of that will be utilized specifically for the new school, but the reality is that we're really just shuffling people and kiddos around. We're not really anticipating a huge increase in capacity here that's going to drive more parking. I think the only downside to this is that more students may have to park over at the middle school parking lot than they do now, which they're going to have to walk, and I'm sure they're not very happy about that. But I think we've done the calculations, and we believe that there's, based on the demand for parking and what we're providing, we're well exceeding kind of what the demand would be.
Thank you.
Can I ask you a question about process? And this is more of a clarification opportunity, that if the referendum process passes and we're moving forward, there will be opportunities for the public, like the school's neighbors, to weigh in on some of the decisions that are made. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct. And I think we will be spending, do we have 5 months for design development? There are just phases in design, concept design, which is what we're in now. Design development is when we make sure that that design fits and works. We work extensively with the town, the staff. We have meetings with parents. When I say we work with the staff, we go over each room in the school with the appropriate staff. And we will be working with DEP and probably the Army Corps of Engineers and DOE, because even though they aren't funding your project, they feel that they have a lot of say in the project. So that's a really good period, and that will happen. We'll actually, because it's the summertime, we won't be able to engage a lot of the public, but we'll get everything firmed up, but not cast in concrete. We will want to be able to respond to the public, the board, the staff. We're going to have a few meetings with the students at MIW and walk them through the school. So that's the most exciting part for us. After that, we do the construction drawings. So those 5 months, if it takes a little longer, we can do that. That's when we trade input.
Right.
Now we have something to bounce against. When we first started the project, nobody knew very much about it, including us. But now we've come up with a concept that we can tweak.
Great.
Okay?
Thank you. Yeah, thanks.
And just to add to that, there will be a formal building committee that and that will be invitations to community members who might represent certain interests that we have, such as environmental, that we want representation from, a little more broader representation from, that when this passes in June 11th, there will be a call for volunteers for that committee and to outline the areas, expertise, or interests that we're hoping to bring into the conversation as well.
We really count on having a very active building committee. So it's a smaller group. They're focusing on the building itself. Then sometimes there are subcommittees like the library, like the playground,
Like the turf field.
Because
there's
Sure.
a lot of questions and
Right.
concerns that we want to be able to address through a bid process.
And the appropriate people on our team will address those.
Can I ask a follow-up?
I just also wanted to add, as far as public participation, that This project will require a site plan review with the town of Cumberland. And so we'll be going to the planning board for that, and there's a whole process, the public process that's involved in that. So there'll be opportunities there, probably a couple of public hearings where the public will be invited to participate in those discussions too.
So on that same topic of the process, I know there have been some questions still in the facilities committee about the heating and the cooling and how that's going to be done. So is my understanding correct that final decision has not been made? And yet you indicated last time at the public meeting you were leaning toward a certain source of heat, but it's not a final decision yet. Do I have that clear?
You do. It is absolutely not final, nor is very much about the school final. It's up for addressing and refining and formalizing, but the mechanical system is such an important part. I think I caused some concern when I said we were considering natural gas. I would like nothing more than to have no fossil fuels in the school. But we worry about things like the life cycle cost. What's it going to cost to run this system, not just for the first 5 years, but for the 20 years? So that's an obligation of ours to make sure that the building is detailed responsibly. We're having a meeting with our engineer tomorrow morning in-house to talk about these options, so they'll be firmed up a little better. And our engineers, as they, our site engineers, our building engineers will attend building committee meetings so that we aren't interpreting there on the line. Okay?
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
I have a follow-up too. So I'm a rookie at this. I built schools before, and I think how different builds go, who owns who are the stakeholders, who makes the final decision, differs. So I guess my question is, in this case, we've been pretty clear about certain RFP type stuff, particularly towards the turf field. In the end, who makes the final decision on what goes in those RFPs? Who makes the final decision on what bids we go for? And then just one other clarifying question. We just mentioned that the town of Cumberland would have another kind of more like public say in this. I know North Yarmouth also has, the building's not happening in North Yarmouth, but I wonder, is it at this point after the referendum, will there be any further bigger town involvement with North Yarmouth since it's outside now, since the building project's outside of that?
Tim, are you thinking about the entire project or most of the site?
I'm thinking about the entire project from the RFP standpoint, but when we talk about, and actually I guess both, when we, and just making sure as we hand this off and after it passes, what we've been talking about, like what those final decisions look like or the decision-making process in committees. But, I think we need clarification, or I need clarification on what voice do those committees have? What opportunities for voice does North Yarmouth have? What opportunities for voicing their concerns will Cumberland have? But in general, if we're making promises up here in terms of an RFP, I want to make sure I'm not making a false promise that when we say this is what's going to happen in the turf fields, and if we can't meet this, then it's not happening. Or if we say this is what's happening with the facilities building, if we can't meet this, then it's not happening, that it's not just, kind of weak words, that there is an opportunity for us to have more than just a voice, but we can always pull the plug if we can't, or we'll wait until we find the right bid.
Well, the construction of public schools in the state of Maine is by law an open bid process. The legislature no longer allows us to select a contractor by what's called construction management. So it has to go out to public bid. But each of the bidders is required to submit credentials to us to make sure they are capable if they should win the bid. So we can't, if there were a situation where someone wanted to bid the job and we were worried about that, we would bring it to you.
I think, so just to clarify my question, it's about who decides who wins the bid.
Who decides?
Yeah, and I guess it's the, you know, if you look at any RFP and we look at this one meets all the requirements or this one doesn't, but they're the cheapest, who in the end, is it you guys in the office who are making the RFP and the final decision on the bid? Or is it one of the building committees?
The ultimate authority is with the board.
Okay.
The board has the final decision. And
Yeah, the
say.
board signs the construction contract in the person of the superintendent, but it is quite difficult to select other than the low bidder in a public school construction project. We would be opening ourselves up to a lawsuit, and each bidder is required to post a bond bid, and we are pretty familiar with most of the construction companies in Maine who build schools, and there aren't a huge number of them. We have had some difficult projects with out-of-state contractors in our history, but it is very difficult to go by other than accepted conditions and rules of public school construction. That's almost a legal question, and I'm glad I'm not your legal counsel. But I think I'm understanding you, but we can discuss with you and the building committee who has requested drawings to bid. We cannot expect everyone who takes drawings to bid. If you have not submitted your credentials and received approval, you cannot bid. Disqualifying a potential bidder is dangerous and difficult. There's precedent for all of this, Tim. There's not much new about this. So I want to make sure I understand your concern.
Yeah, I guess my concern is mostly on want people to be assured this is a long process, and that when we make promises on certain things that we're saying we're required, right? Because we typically, as a district, I think our RFP process is not exactly an RFP process, but in this situation, I don't know if all of us, I mean, there's going to be a lot of bids for a lot of different parts of the project. And so I just want to make sure that the town knows, but we also know that like when the RFPs go out, that these are like our collective decisions. They're not Steve Blatt creating the bids that go out, in the sense of like the turf field. When we make promises specifically on the turf field, we can deliver on that promise that we are going to hit these aspects or requirements.
Steve, can I help with that a little bit? Because you and I have done a number of projects together in the district. So the specifications that are in the bid are determined by the board and the building committee. And the architect is the one who helps us write those bids and includes the things that we want in the bids. There's also alternates in the bids. So let's say, for instance, with a turf field, there's different types of ground, right? Different types of curve, different types of turf, et cetera. We'll be speccing out a certain turf, but there may be alternates to that are in there that allow the board the final approval on that. And so you look at the bids, and then you look at the alternates during the bid opening, and then everything is culminated by your architect, and then the board is allowed to make a decision on what they want to include in those alternates or in those different bids. So it's a formalized process with very little leeway.
And can you, I just have an assumption just based on my own experience with RFPs and contracts. There's really two opportunities. One is with the RFP where you put the specs and your expectations in place as part of that process. But also then when you sign a contract, there's certain language in ensuring the adherence to those requirements.
And this is not an RFP process. This is a low bid process. An RFP is when you go out for a proposal. This is where you spell out all of your specifications and that people bid on those specifications that you have produced, as Steve talked earlier.
Right. We're going to have an RFQ to contractors saying, give us your qualifications. But we're not asking anyone for a proposal. There's a formal bid process. please understand that I know who I work for. I work for you. And I try to satisfy you in whole and come to agreement. And I'm sure that if there's something that we're doing wrong, you'll let us know.
Thank you. Our projects have all gone very well, Steve, so thank you.
Does the board have any additional questions or comments before I open up the floor? Okay, thank you. Is anyone here in the audience wish to ask questions or make additional comments at this time about the school project? If you could just introduce yourself and your town of residence, thank you.
Sarah Rose, North Yarmouth. I had a question about the multipurpose room in the new school and what the capacity is. Like, number of students.
The legal capacity? Okay. It was going to be smaller, as everything in this school we thought would be, but we were urged to make it as close to the size of MIW as we could. So we have done that. We've raised the ceiling, raised the roof, and it is, it doesn't need to be used for anything other than physical education and large meetings. I think it's about 4,000 feet? It's just about 4,000 feet. I think Mabel Wilson's is 44 and we're 42. Okay, it has natural light. It has plenty of exits. The whole building will be sprinkled. We're going to want to deal with acoustics in that room so it doesn't become chaotic.
Can we have a whole school assembly?
I think you can in 4,000 feet. I don't know if you'd want to, but you certainly can.
Well, you may not want to, but.
I don't know.
I would have no problem doing that.
Okay, yes, we can do that.
I know that we have other facilities that we can't have a whole school assembly in.
I think that's because our schools are growing. And, I mean, we have virtually a high school-sized gymnasium at the middle school, but the middle school, getting all the students into that is difficult.
Right.
These are little kids. A lot of the little kids prefer to sit on the floor. That helps a lot.
Definitely. Yep.
But I want to assure you that we have 3 points of egress, and that's what limits the number of people you can put into a room, the life safety.
The other question I had was, at MIW, are we going to manage the roof and the leakage issues? Is that going to be part of this project, or is that separate?
Steve, do you want to address some of those things have not been completely solidified yet, but those are things that are on the list.
Yes, we've actually increased the allocation of budget dollars to MIW because it needs a lot. It's an old school.
Yeah.
And so in addition to the construction of the 4 classrooms, we're going to be finishing up the windows, reworking toilet rooms, reworking floors, and we're going to look at the whole thing. We may have to prioritize, but we want to refresh the schools so that you don't go from our new school to that school, and we don't want it to be a complete bummer.
Always important. And my last question, I think right now, is who's going to be the construction manager on this? How does that function?
So in the budget, there is no owner's rep that's built into the budget, but there is obviously a clerk of the works, which is part of the architect's office.
Right. The clerk of the works is someone that we actually put out an RFQ for clerks of the works, and we bring someone in who is on the site every moment that construction is going on. If the contractor needs to work on a Saturday to make up for a storm, the clerk is there, and he's there. He has his own office on the site. He's there from sunup to sundown. But there does need to be someone designated at the administrator's office who we can almost always find to get a decision. Issues like change orders, additional costs, That's a board decision. It'll first go to a building committee, because if the building committee discourages it, we know they'll take that discouragement to the board. And we want to make this as least unpleasant as possible. And construction is a difficult game. It's very tough. Oh, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Any questions that you have? Yeah, thank you.
Your computer?
You need to look at
I need to put something down.
Sure. Can I close this down? Yep. How's that?
Thank you. Hi, my name is Larry Lonigan. I'm from North Yarmouth, and I have some questions relative to financial items. Specifically, I have here in front of me the plan of financing, and the plan of financing has included in there where there's an application of fund balance of $2.5 million. And so the question I pose is, where's that money coming from? And is there more?
Here's your balance sheet. Yeah, you got it there, yes.
So maybe I should answer my thoughts of what I have, is that last time I looked, there was about $7 million in 2023.
No, what you have to look at, Larry, on that is unallocated fund balance. There's allocated fund balances in there, which are allocated to capital, which are allocated to a couple of other reserve areas, but there's unallocated fund balance of 3.3 million. I believe that was the last number I looked at, and that's where the money would come from to apply towards that debt over a period of time.
The 3 million, is that as of estimated actual right now?
That's estimated actual with probably a slight amount added at the end of this year, probably close to 600,000 is what I'm estimating.
So how much does that leave in the general fund per se? And also relative to that 3 million that you talked about, has that been brought forth to the voters and approved to be identified in that fashion, or somewhat internally restricted, not necessarily restricted by an outside source?
Anything that we expend from that 3.3 million is usually allocated through a transfer to capital reserve, or its use of unallocated fund balance that'll appear in each one of our budgets. So you'll see that at the 2026 budget, for instance, there will be, or in the, when we first take on the debt in that fiscal year, what you'll see is an amount that'll show in the revenue section of the budget that'll say application of, carry forward or unallocated fund balance of X number of dollars, which will go towards the budget to offset that debt in that year.
That's what you're proposing for 2026 or
That's what we're proposing for
2025?
that's what we're proposing for 3 years. So if you look at the financing, what you'll see is application of fund balance. So in 2027, it's 2026, Larry, there's the 2027, the application of 450,000, then in 2028, the application of 1.5 million, and then in 2029, the application of 550,000 of that fund balance. Those being the peak years of when we're taking the debt, and the whole purpose of that was to bring on that debt or staircase it over a 5-year period, so.
So again, is that capital fund, is that effectively monies that, effectively that's money that's excess revenue over expenditures, would that be correct?
It's a combination or a culmination over a period of time, which is built up of excess revenue or unexpended balances over time, absolutely.
Right. So for example, when I look at the financial statements for June 2023, there's effectively in the general fund there's 4.7 million, and in the capital improvement fund there's 2.9.
Yep.
So again, relative to the capital fund, has that ever been identified, that identification or distinguishment, has that been brought forth to the taxpayers and approved?
Absolutely. At every district budget meeting, there's money that's transferred. It's actually a warrant article at the district budget meeting, and that money has been allocated. So for instance, there was 2.7 million transferred in that last fiscal year, which was used towards the construction of modulars and capital projects on the campus. So we had to do all the site work for the modulars, and that really drew down that fund balance pretty heavily at that time.
Yeah, you expended 1.8 out of that 2.7, at least per the financial
Well, remember, we
statements.
just had this past summer, which took that 2.7 million and burned it down even further, Larry. So,
Right.
because we
I'm
added the
looking at- I'm
modulars.
looking at 23.
Yeah, we added the modulars at this past year at Mabel I. Wilson School. Okay, the clusters that are over there
So
that you see.
when you bring it forth in the financials or in the warrant, do you identify to the public that that basically is where we've been over taxed, shall we say?
I don't think you've been overtaxed, as you're saying, okay?
Well, if the revenue exceeds the expenditures, then effectively, we have an excess taxation. And
Well,
then the
the
question is that there's a state statute that talks about unexpended balances.
Yeah, let me answer that. That's a two-part question, Larry, okay? So we could have a long discussion tonight
Yeah,
about this.
I'm
So,
sure we can.
Sounds like, yeah, we might want to
So let me start with the first part of that, okay? There is an amount that you can have in your undesignated fund balance of 5%, okay, that the state allows you to carry there. When we have the,
Well, let me clarify
Go
that,
ahead.
is that 5% is applicable to the state, and if you're in excess of it, then you have to give state monies back, right?
no, you have to have a plan to use it over a 3-year period,
Right.
okay? And so,
And
our-
if you don't use it, then you have to give it back to the state.
no, that's not true, okay? And you aren't letting me finish, so I need to finish if you don't mind on my comment. So there's a 5% rule, which allows you to carry an undesignated balance of 5%, okay? And that's to meet unanticipated costs and things that may come up in a short run. The capital reserve, as you talked about, goes to every single budget meeting, and we transfer those funds over with a vote of the hands at the district budget meeting. And we talked at the district budget meeting in a presentation of what those funds are going towards. And so it comes as no surprise of what we're doing in that transfer. So I don't know what other questions you have around that, Larry, but.
Well, I guess probably what I need to do is find those discussions or those parts of the warrants.
Sure. Yeah, the
I see
warrant.
the one for this year where there's discussion of 1.7
Yes,
going in and money
absolutely.
coming out. I think to some degree, it's disappointing, the presentation, because it really doesn't tell the taxpayers how much more is being expended by the school district.
Yeah.
It's sort of off the books of the budget.
Yeah, I don't agree with that, Larry. I think it's on the books. We're pretty, we're pretty
Everybody
open
refers to
to
the
it.
percentage increase.
And also, the other part of it is that fund balance over time really built mostly during COVID. If you take a look at the past few years, and when you go back over time, you'll see that undesignated fund balance, we had a lot of unhired staff. We had things left in our personnel lines because of, lack of staff hiring. And that's actually the time in which a lot of those fund balances built. And so what we're trying to do now is give those back to the taxpayers in order to help offset the debt of this school, to help with that.
And I would just add that the prior year, 2.4 million that was transferred for the modulars, that was part of a long discussion that the board had in public. I made a recommendation months before that actually occurred called the short-term facilities plan going ahead because there had been a failed bond. And so there were multiple discussions and then eventually a vote by the full board as to accept that plan, which then went into a warrant article to be supported by voters or not, which it was. So it was a long public discourse.
So these funds will now go back to the taxpayers in order to help offset the debt over a period of 3 years at those peak years and ramp that debt up over a period of years to soften the impact.
Right, and additionally, my comment is that from my perspective, the monies for those other little transfers, that $2.7 million, for example, and 1.8 that was actually expended, it's sort of, again, off to the side. It doesn't, people think about what's the percentage increase? Okay, the school's going up 8.6 or whatever, but in actuality, it's going up more than that.
Yeah.
So it's a bit misleading. You might say, well, it's in the commentary or in the warrant, but you're asking people to go A plus B equals C. And nobody gets to the B. A plus B equals C, they're on the A.
Larry, I think your questions are really good. It is challenging between the budget and a school project and the costs over time to ensure that people understand that the amount is being added. So I really appreciate your comments on that. And I know that we're working as a board to ensure that the communication around, the plan of financing and the school budget, we can help clarify some of those questions. And I know we're more than happy if you have more questions like in writing about the school budget or to have a conversation, we'll be happy to sit down. And if there's some information about how funds are being transferred.
I wanted to be there here so that the public could hear.
I really appreciate,
And so if it goes on a piece of paper, it gets buried. It's kind of like the A plus B equals C. Additionally, the question comes about is what's in the general fund and is that coming back to the taxpayers?
So the dollars that were added to the financing plan are from, they're not currently in the general fund
They're
because they
not
need to be
currently added,
transferred.
they would be transferred from unallocated fund balance.
Right.
So the general fund has at 2023, 4.7 million. And is some of that, I didn't see that being applied relative to the 2024 budget.
I guess, Larry, we're having a disconnect between you saying there's 4.7 million and I'm saying there's 3.3 million of unallocated fund balance.
Okay,
Okay,
that's fine.
And I'm talking about that piece, and then
We can discuss that, but
Yeah.
let's stay on the 3.3 then.
yeah, and that's the piece that's where the 2.7 million is or the 2.5 million is currently coming from to offset the debt.
Yeah, and the reason I said we're happy to have additional conversations. We just have a limited time during our meeting tonight.
Okay, I'm sure that I've used more than 3 minutes.
But again, happy to, and I know some of these numbers are hard to pull up for us just to verify, and so we're happy to ensure that there's clarity around some of those numbers.
And there's also one other piece of this. So, Larry, and I know you bring it to closure, but there's one other piece of this too. There's no mystery to this. Municipalities do the same thing. They place money in capital reserve, and they do that to be able to deal with infrastructure issues. So this is not uncommon for municipalities or schools.
I'm not to say that I'm unaware of that. I'm just concerned that the people should understand that those monies are being built up or have been built up.
Thank you. Yeah, I know we've been working on our communication as well, so thank you.
One other question, if I might. In the presentation is this little sheet that says leases, space leases. Is this what would happen without the school project, or is this in addition to?
It's both, Larry. So it shows how much we've expended so far, and then if the bond fails, there would be a need with a projected enrollment through the next 10 years.
So this would be what would happen if...
Most of it is going forward. What will we need? We'd need 54 modular classrooms in order to handle the projected enrollment.
So if I look at...
projections.
So if I look at, for example, the total new school, it says 2029, the financial cost would be $3.9 million. And if I look at this lease item, after participation by the state, the temporary space cost, if the project wasn't approved, would be $503,000. That's a difference of, 3.4 million?
Right, and that's been netted out. So you can see the net cost after the state contributes.
Yeah, that's the 503,000.
Right, so we've shown that cost. So the state only contributes for 5 years. That's it.
That's fine. We want to take out the state contribution and we'll just say the aggregate amount, 761,000 for 2009 versus the finance amount of 3.9 million. So if we didn't go ahead with the school, will we be saving 3.4 million in 2029?
So this is supposed to show what it would cost if the school, if the bond doesn't pass. So what we
Right.
would need to do, we'd have to plan, obviously, just like we've been planning for the 29 classrooms that we've got currently on campus. We have to also plan in the event that this fails and be transparent about what it's going to cost.
Right.
Is that
I
what you're
understand
asking?
it. I'm just pointing out what I'm seeing visually here from a number point of view.
Yeah,
And it seems to me it's a pretty significant amount.
it is.
So I wanted to bring that forth to the general public too.
Right, and I think, Larry, I think you asked a question about 2029. Was that the year?
I just used that as an example.
Right. So in that year, for example, it would cost an additional $811,000 for the modulars at that point. There is no state contribution because the 5 years are up.
Right.
So the total amount would be $811,336 that we would be spending on all modulars that particular year.
Right.
So
So effectively, and that's versus the new school financial amount of 3.8.
correct.
million.
Yeah, we're just showing
That's
what
a
it,
difference of 3 million
right.
in that particular year.
Right, if there's not a permanent solution, obviously these are leases,
Hmm.
so they're temporary space and they are continuing to take over the
It's funny
space.
because I have this thing with, Facebook, and you have things with, where the town you came from. And there was this item like a couple of years, item just recently that I saw, people were talking about the temporary spaces that they had when they went to school.
Mhm.
And they said, well, we had that and they no longer need it.
Thank you, Larry. I really
You're
appreciate
welcome,
your
just an
time.
observation.
Thank you.
Yep.
And hopefully we can connect if you have other questions.
Hmm?
Happy to connect if you have other questions. Thank you.
Okay, here or somewhere else, off-site?
You reach out to me. Thank
Well,
you.
as long as I bring something up, and then if it has merit, then you bring it forth.
Great. Sounds good. Thank you. Is there anyone else who has questions? Great.
Okay.
You have another question?
Sure. Again, Bruce Sherwin, Cumberland. I couldn't see the numbers on the board, and I've got a hearing problem, so I couldn't hear a lot of what's, so this question may have been answered already, but I'm wondering, and this bond and building of the school, is this a turnkey school when it's done? Turnkey? Or is there more costs beyond this?
We were really ensuring that all the needs for both the opening of the school and the campus to fit the school were in this
Yeah,
project.
including furniture and fixtures
Exactly.
and
That is
internet and
line, yep.
all
there's-
that kind of stuff. I just don't, is that a line
Absolutely.
on the budget
It
somewhere?
is, because
Yeah.
we do not want to go back out and ask for additional
Is it one line on
funds.
the budget? Just, and tell me what line it is so I can
Yes.
look at it.
I know there is.
Yep.
Yeah.
We
What's
can
it
find-
called?
It's right on our website. Let me pull it up for you. If we have a building, school building project page, and that's just, I'm putting out there just so people know that we've got that. And you can go to the school project page, which is the budget. And it says updated May 13th, 24, so that's the version that we have up there. And the line for that, let me just find it real quick. Yeah, we have movable equipment and technology, 1,267,000, which is 4% of construction, is listed as a line in this budget.
All right, good.
B9. And no, we're not playing bingo.
Line 9, B9.
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 Although that would be kind of fun.
Right, this is, so if that's what you mean by turnkey, yes.
That's what,
Yeah.
that's what I'm wondering, whether, of course, it doesn't include operating costs,
No.
we have that.
estimated fuel,
That is on the
teachers, is that on there? Is
We
that
Yeah.
in
have
the budget
another,
too?
it's not in the budget, but we have a slide that we presented, that was presented, and it's on our website as well, that has a slide for anticipated increases
Yeah.
in operating expenses in the year that the school opens.
Yes.
And you can go and look at that as well.
Is that on
It is.
site? And
Yes.
what, yeah, okay. I
It's
go
on the
website.
building page of the website.
I don't find it very friendly, but I find it hard to find.
We've really tried. There's so
Yeah.
much information now on the building
Yeah.
website.
There's a lot of information
Yeah.
on that page, but if you need it specifically, you can certainly email me and I'll send it right to you.
Yeah.
Great.
The other thing I want to just mention is, this is more to Cumberland taxpayers with the turf field again. We got a lot of other things to pay. I don't think the school board communicates with the town council well. Not sure about North Yarmouth, but I can tell from Cumberland because we've got much higher priorities in this town to pay for than a turf field.
Thank you.
We got big intersection problems. We got water on Bruce Hill. And we need Little League fields, which is also for North Yarmouth.
Yeah,
So,
thank you so much.
I think we've got, that turf field is a lower priority. Thank you.
Thank you. Great. One more question, and then.
So my question is in relation to the document that had the A, B, C with the construction costs, and then the B, okay. So I'm wondering about the section B and the movable technology and things like that. And why would we put those into the bond? Because to me, I wouldn't put a new computer, I wouldn't roll that into my mortgage. So I wanted to kind of understand, and I know that these are different animals, and I just wanted to understand that.
It's a great question. It's come up before. Steve has answered it recently, so we'll give you one more go.
There are two elements of that. One is one is technology. That is built into the school. That's the technology skeleton. Okay, it's not laptops. The second is furnishings, furniture and furnishings. We're going to have a lot of students still at MIW. And so we don't want to strip those furnishings out. So we have a budget, which is well proven, for desks and chairs and for staff as well as students. And that's the percentage. It's 4%. It's actually 2% of furnishings and 2% technology. Isn't that right, Doug? That is right. Okay?
I guess my question would be then, if our furnishing are probably not going to last 30 years, why, again, would we put those into the bond?
Well, we're going to need them to open the school. And it seems to me there would be a risk that you would have an opportunity to not approve a separate purchase. And part of our planning is numbers of chairs and desks and bookcases in the school, and that is bid. It's bid to a separate group of vendors who supply that stuff. The technology infrastructure is bid to the general contractor. The furnishings are a separate item. And it's never been brought to my attention before that you could do that separately.
So I guess my question is more financing versus building. Like why wouldn't we use unallocated funds for furniture instead of putting it into the bond? I mean, I understand we need new furniture in order to open a building.
I mean, I think this is a good question. It's probably like, what is the best way of handling these things? I'll give you an example. We had, until about 5 years ago at the high school, we had furniture that had been here for probably 25 to 30 years easily. It was the ones with the bolts in the back and everything like that. It took us, I think, Scott, if you're trying to remind me, 3 or 4 budget cycles to finally replace furniture that had been here for 30 years. It took a long time to replace it. And to open a new school and to have to go through that process of multiple years of doing that, I don't think it would make sense in my mind. Most, the construction projects I've always been involved in, we've always put the furniture in when we build the new school. We're always disappointed if you don't, because you're putting old furniture. And Mabel I. Wilson School, we've been trying to update the furniture at Wilson School for the 760 students that are there right now. A lot of it is old, and we continue to try to update it, we're gonna have old furniture basically moving into a new building. If that's the case, if we're not going through the process of getting that furniture.
It's also
I don't want to beat a dead horse, but I understand that we're buying new furniture. I understand we need new furniture. Makes total sense to me. My question is, why wouldn't we use unallocated funds, the money we already have that we're setting aside as needed? And I mean, and I understand there may be bigger emergencies along the way, but as opposed to financing that money's out for 30 years, why wouldn't we use what we have to pay for that portion?
Yeah, with the financing plan that we're using to try to keep this cost lower, there won't be any money. There won't be very little left in the unallocated fund balance with the financial plan that we are proposing to pay for this, especially during those first 3 years.
It's also the benefit of the financing. If we went to lease purchase those over a shorter period of time, obviously the interest rate and the cost to the citizens would be higher. Okay, so you'd be taking on the higher debt, and you'd also be taking on that cost at relatively the same time. The greater benefit is with the application of fund balance to reduce the debt service to the citizens over that time frame rather than using the unallocated fund balance. Spreading the cost of those out, the furniture and furnishings and those things out over a longer period of time, you're actually expensing them over the life of your using them, as opposed to just buying them all up front and paying for everything up front. So think of it like a car that you might expense for a business over time, right? It's that piece. We don't get to take advantage of depreciation, but yeah, they aren't gonna last 30 years, okay? I mean, let's just be upfront about that, but certainly over a period of time, you can get on a replacement schedule to replace those over a period of time and still gain the benefit of the use and the benefit of the financing early on in the project. Okay.
Thank you.
Still paying interest on them.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and you'd have to weigh that against the cost of replacing them again down 20 years later, so.
Great. Okay, so I think we're set to end our public hearing. Oh, you do? Yeah. Okay, you haven't been up yet.
One of the folks in our group asked a question, so I would do. So the question is, how much more is it to borrow over 30 years than the original 22?
When you say the original 22?
Over there, 80 Gray Road.
I'm not sure I can answer that right now, Bill. I don't have that right off. And they're two different values, right? We were talking a larger project there, a substantially larger project than here. So,
yeah.
So I'm not sure I could give you that number today.
Okay, I'll pass that on.
All right,
Great.
thank you.
Thank you, Bill. Okay, I think we're ready to close our public hearing. Thank you. Now we're going to move on to items for action. Can I ask for a motion? And thank you. Great. Thanks. Can I ask for a motion to approve policy IHCD, advanced placement courses?
So move.
Thank you, Christina. Can I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Anne. So, Anne, would you like to just remind us about this policy?
Yeah, so for this policy, we were updating our advanced placement policy to reflect our commitment to the International Baccalaureate program.
Thanks for the reminder. Go, Christina.
One question. When it refers to organizational meeting, Anne, does that mean a board meeting, or there are a couple times it refers to that? It says prior to next organizational meeting.
We're talking about the advanced placement policy.
Right, I've got the wrong question. Sorry, I will hold that for the next time.
Okay. No, that's all right.
Great. Any other questions? All in favor? Great. It's unanimous. Can I have a motion to approve policy BDF, other board committees and board special committee task forces as presented?
So moved.
Thank you, Kim. Can I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Anne. Christina, do you have a
I have a question. Good question, bad timing. So when it refers to organizational meetings, what is it referring to?
That's referring to our annual retreat.
Okay, thank you.
And just as a reminder, this policy in its iteration is a bit clunky, but currently we only have a policy covering our standing board committees, which are policy and finance. So this is covering all of our other board committees, and then also any formation of special committees or task forces, such as hopefully a building committee.
Any other questions, comments? Great, all in favor? Thank you. Next, we're going to move to approve professional positions. We have 4 positions that we'll be working to approve. The first, I'll be asking to approve, can I have a motion for the MIW social worker position?
So moved.
Thank you. Megan, can I have a second?
Second.
Great, thanks, Annika. Would you like to take us through this position?
Yep, this position is at Mabel I. Wilson School. It's a full-time social worker. It is a replacement position, and this is a position that is in an embedded program for special services, and that's the model that we have gone to. So we had a resignation, and so this is a replacement for that resignation. There are 4 folks that were interviewed. There were 5 applications for this position.
Any questions?
Is that for this year?
No, this will be starting for next year.
Great. All in favor? Great, thank you. Can I have a motion for the GMS 6-8 grade 8 ELA position to be approved for appointment?
So moved.
Kim, can I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Tom. Would you like to take us through this?
Yep, this is a position replacing a retiring teacher at the end of the school year, a longtime teacher at the middle school. So this is a position where we had 33 applications, and 5 applicants were interviewed by the committee and then recommended for a second interview the person in front of you. And this particular applicant is also currently working at the middle school as a long-term substitute.
Any questions?
Did you say 33 applicants?
There were 33 applicants, yes.
Yeah.
Is that unusual nowadays?
Not really. I mean, it depends on the position. ELA certainly will get more applications.
Yeah, I also noticed that.
Yep.
All right, any other questions? All in favor? Great, thank you, unanimous. Next up is the MIW K1 Literacy Specialist. Can I have a motion to approve the appointment of this professional position?
So moved.
Thank you, Tim. Second?
Second.
Thank you. Was that, sorry.
Me.
Okay, Christina, thank you.
This position is a literacy specialist at MIW, and this is to replace someone who has resigned. We had 15 people who applied, and 3 candidates were interviewed by the committee and then sent forward the person in front of you for second interview and consideration.
Thank you. Any questions? Great. All in favor? Once again, unanimous. And the last position is the MIW MTSS Coordinator. Can I have a motion to approve the appointment of this professional position?
So moved.
Thank you, Annika.
Second.
Thank you, Megan. Last one.
Last position is MTSS Coordinator, again for resignation, and we had 13 people apply for the position. 3 people were interviewed by the committee and then sent forward the applicant in front of you. This is an applicant who comes, they're all very highly qualified, but has a lot of experience as an MTSS Coordinator. This is a new position that we added to the budget a year ago. It is a very complex position, a lot of moving parts in a large school. It is a quasi-supervisory position as well. The person was put through multiple steps in the interview process, including a visit to Mabel I. Wilson School, meeting with people, being kind of assessed by a lot of people at the school in order to make sure that this person was a good fit, not only working with students directly, but working in a supervisory capacity with other staff members, which is part of this position. So very complex position, and we wanted to make sure we got absolutely the right candidate for the position. So, and we're very pleased again at the applicant pool of 13 for a position like this is actually a pretty healthy pool.
Any questions? All in favor? Thank you. Once again, unanimous. How many open positions do we still have?
I don't have the number in front of me. Do you mean teacher positions or support or all? I can give an update to the board at the next meeting.
That would be great. Thank you.
Yep.
All right. Now you're up next with the superintendent's report.
All right, superintendent's report tonight. Actually a lot going on in the superintendent's report because there's a lot of great things going on in the district. So let me just pull that up. All right, at Mabel I. Wilson School, there was a very special moment. I had been invited to this. Unfortunately, I could not. It was double, triple booked at the time, but we had a parent, Captain Benson, who is a parent at Mabel I. Wilson School, is stationed in Bahrain. And if you don't know where it was, and I had to look it up myself, it is in the Persian Gulf. It's a very small island nation. MIW teacher Lauren Magnuson invited him to be a mystery reader for her first grade students. And one student in particular in her class, named Thomas, was very excited and surprised about this particular moment. Let's watch. I think you missed the first part of it, but he was very excited. Well, I could play it again. Here we go. We appreciate Captain Benson, who's one of our parents, for videoing in and being a part of that very special experience in that classroom, especially for his son. So very exciting moment there. Oops, sorry.
I know, right?
We could watch it again, I suppose. I'm gonna have to get back into it. All right. Also at Mabel I. Wilson School, we had a lot of wax museums going on this time of year. This is one of those favorites at MIW where students really become another character. And if you've had an experience being at one of these, you really understand the students get into the part and they dress up and do some research on their particular character. Thomas Edison, Caitlin Clark, and Taylor Swift are always favorites, I think, at Wax Museum, especially Taylor Swift these days. And so Amelia Coffey's third graders, not unlike many classes at Mabel Wilson School in third grade, are involved in the Wax Museum. Also at GMS 4-5, congratulations to the 4-5 track and field Special Olympians, and they've received a rousing return to school, where all of the students at the middle school, at least in the 4th and 5th, and I think even 6th, 8th, welcome them back into the school after they've been at the Special Olympics and they got off the bus to a whole school full of people welcoming them back and cheering them on. So very exciting. At the middle school, and this is middle school 4-8, there was a space day a couple weeks ago. So NASA had been planning this event. This is part of a space day that's done only in a couple places each year in the state of Maine, and so we were chosen as this school this year for the middle level. And NASA puts a lot of resources into this day for all of the students at 4-8. So we had about 850 students who got to experience all kinds of different sessions. Started with a huge assembly for 4-8, and then there was branch out sessions all day long with NASA staff members and outreach being there. So this particular session, I was sitting in the back. It was quite fascinating around the atmosphere of Mars, and is there a possibility of actually landing and colonizing Mars someday? And the NASA educator here was helping the students understand the possibilities. So it was pretty cool. It's just more images of the space day and different activities. A lot of them were hands-on activities where students could literally try on one of those space suits and see the gravity and see how cold it is or how warm it is. So a lot of tangible activities involve rocket launching, etc. So thank you to NASA for and the Space Day program for all of that. At Greeley Middle School 6-8, the Southern Maine Math League held its first in-person meet since before the pandemic. Teams from Gardner to York gathered at the Expo for the fourth and final meet, and the GMS 6-8 math team was there, and for the third time this year, the middle school 7th grade math team, coached by middle school teacher Mark McDonough, secured a first place finish. So 3 members of the team also took home individual awards. These are given to the top 5 scorers from each grade. William Sandeifer, 4th place. Peter Colinari, I'm going to really make mistakes in these names, 3rd place. And Lincoln Wells, that's easy, 2nd place. Congratulations to the whole team on their tremendous success this year. And Mr. Alborn is in the audience. He's a math teacher at the high school, and I can imagine that you must be excited knowing you have a great group of kids coming up. They're all great, but you've got some stars here in the middle school ready to do some math.
I also think there's maybe a board member's kiddo up there. Maybe.
And who would that be?
Annika's son.
Annika, do you want to point out your son? So I wasn't given all the names on the team, but also at 6-8, wow, a lot of things going on. 6th grade social studies classes welcome former Penobscot Nation Chief Barry Dana to the middle school. I've actually had a chance to hear Chief Dana many times. He's an amazing speaker, is really interactive with the students, helping them understand indigenous peoples, especially the Wabanaki. And this is part of our Wabanaki unit for 6th grade social studies. And so students had already talked about the history, cultural information, so they already had information to kind of go back and forth with Chief Dana when he arrived. And he was able to give insight into accurate terminology, provide answers to questions that sometimes sources don't provide. So again, we want to thank Chief Dana. He has visited our district on multiple occasions. It's just so helpful and great with the kids. At Greeley High School, this is the Students of the Month. This was, the theme was open-minded. Students who are open-minded, so congratulations to the following students for their ability to appreciate their own culture and personal history, as well as the values and traditions of others. And 9th grade, it's Charlie Louie. 10th grade, Audrey Ingersoll. 11th grade, Maya Lo Nati. 12th grade, all the students who have been involved in the Unified French class, Abby Jacobson, Asher Gorish, Josh Fecto, and Aaron Gage. They actually visited that class one day. I was very impressed. Where students in FLS are learning French from the students who are taking French class, so it becomes a unified French offering, and they're involved in activities, often learning language around those activities, such as cooking, was the one I was able to see. And so congratulations to those students for their willingness to step up and do that. And well, look at this. Look at this. At Greeley High School, Congratulations to the High School Poetry Month winner, Tommy Leggett Barr, who participated in decorating the high school library's poetry. Now, first I had to make sure that was spelled correctly. Poetry, like it is a poetry, with a poem by Emily Dickinson. Do you want to read it?
What I'm saying is
Tommy?
kids everywhere.
I know.
Do it all.
And it's a black and white photo, so I'm not sure what year it was or what decade, but it's up there. I especially am very interested in finding out more about the poetry. At the high school, congrats. Oops, there's someone else. No, wait, no, Zach is not here tonight. Okay, Lincoln, you're going to have to accept congrats. Congrats to Zachary Vanny and Jack Airy for their achievement on being National Merit Scholarship finalists. This is actually a huge recognition. It's a national recognition. Well, so is the title National Merit. And Mr. Francis obviously was very excited to find that out, and we had a photo op here. Congratulations to Zach and Jack. Congratulations to Asia Kelman, who scored her 100th goal during the Greeley Girls Lacrosse Senior Night. I know that is a huge accomplishment, and congratulations to Asia for that. Greeley seniors Abigail Jacobson, Molly Mulligan, Charlie Ananya, and Jonah Gibbord announced their plans to compete in college at a recognition ceremony earlier this month, and at a signing ceremony. We have multiple signing ceremonies usually each year at this time. Rangers Rock Edition, Maine Model United Nations was held at Gorham earlier this month. The high school Model UN team consisted of many of our students: Katie Wallace, Jordan Young, Ella Forbes, Annie Martell, Celeste Merrill, Stella McNally, Julian Derry, Harper Chapman, and Maya Zimmerman. For the first time in over 2 decades, the high school had 2 of our team members recognized during the closing ceremonies with the Distinguished Delegate Award. So congratulations to Stella McNally and Katie Wallace, and to team captain Jordan Young. A great program, the Model UN. National History Day, our middle school students, 6-8, were recognized at the National History Day for the state of Maine, and there is a national competition as well. John Sprague and Fletcher Myers came in first in the state for their exhibit on Unisom. Matthew Wilkerson came in second place for his website on the Bretton Woods Conference. And these are all, these are all history topics, obviously, but some of them are not well known. And so it's interesting to dig into these topics that often are kind of just side notes or not referenced in history. David Gilbert came in second place for his documentary on the American with Disabilities Act in 1974. Van Askenardi came in third for his exhibit on the 1978 oil strike in Iran. Calvin O'Connor came in second place for his performance on Larry Dobbie. Gideon Beck, Phoebe Levin, Molly Carey Knight, and Avanali O'Donnell came in third for their performance on the Hays Code in early Hollywood. And Katie Cassesi also won the Maine Bearing Teacher of the Year, and Katie is one of our gifted and talented teachers, and both she and Mark McDonough are heavily involved in the National History Day project at the middle school. Also in Rangers Rock, congrats to Jackie Franklin, Jonah Gabord, Sammy Santeri, and Owen Partridge, who headed to the Nationals qualifying co-ed 4x400 race. Big accomplishment. Congratulations to those 4 students. And finally on Rangers Rock, CalCare's 5K run for mental health in late April brought out 250 participants, and I think some people are sitting at this table that participated. Board chair? I know you were. I know you might have been spotted running. Yes. Anyone else? No? Our board chair was running. Were you running?
I was.
Good. I heard you did well. Raising $50,000. Many thanks to the high school CalCare Student Club for organizing this event. Just one of many things that the students have been really involved with this year. I guess this is the final piece. Just if you want to learn more about the school campus, we do have the school building project page on the district website, and we have a link. And one of the new things that's been added, I'll actually go to the link for a second, that's been added onto this page, which is very important, is all of the events that were recorded, that we're able to record, and put them up here on special topics. So if you were not able to view those, we have those recorded, and you can watch any of those topics. Each of them are about an hour long. But if you really want to find out more about the design, the turf field, safety, curriculum, and the plan of financing in more depth, hear other people's questions or listen to other people's questions and get the answers, they are right there for you on the school building project page. It's on the district website, and you go down to school building project. And there you will find everything, including, we wanted to make sure that the Community Engagement Committee also has put a lot of work into the frequently asked questions. You can go to those general questions, click on the answer, and get a full answer to any of your questions. I think we've put, the committee has put up as many questions as they have heard and tried to respond to those questions. So thank you to the Engagement Committee for all their work on this. And that is the superintendent's report tonight.
Thank you. So yeah, now we're just working hard to ensure our community members know where to find information. I know there's multiple channels that we're trying to ensure that they know how much information is on the website if they have questions. So now we're going to move to our committee reports. Do you want, Sophia, you want to go first? Sure. And we'll end with Tommy's last one.
So last Wednesday, juniors took the state science assessment for we got to miss the first 2 periods of classes, so that was kind of nice. And then we also got to see, I think it was just 1 period that got the NASA presentation too. I don't think ours was as in-depth or hands-on, which I'm kind of disappointed about, but I went and it was really fun to see, and I actually learned a lot, and it was pretty cool. And then this past weekend we had juniors organize prom at the Woodlands, which was, I would count it as a definite success. This was the juniors' main project for the year. This was the thing that our class officers were spending most of their time on for basically the whole year. And we had cornhole and a photo booth, which I don't think we had last year at prom. No offense, Tommy, but the cornhole was being used, and I was a little bit skeptical, but I think it got used basically all night, so that's pretty good. And then today, the junior IB students got to take a field trip to Bowdoin, where we basically got a research day for our extended essays, which are basically like this big long research paper. So it was pretty fun to go to Bowdoin, and also we got a mini tour, even though there weren't any students there because they were all done. But it was fun. So
thanks, Sophia.
Yeah. And also talking about that math meet, that is really impressive that we did that well. I remember going to those middle school math meets, and we just did horribly. And I think that there were really good people at math, but it just shows that that is a truly talented group of kids. But yeah, I guess my last student report is upon us, and this is maybe my biggest one ever. So I'll try and keep it brief, but so last week we ended exams for everyone that doesn't have to do a makeup exam. I know some people missed their calc exam because of the geo exam, so the AP Calc, there are some AP Calc students that still have exams, but for the vast majority, everyone is beginning their senior projects and doing things from camping and hiking to food reviews, learning how to cook, everything that you could imagine that seniors want to be spending their time doing in the last couple weeks of school. And also during that, there's a lot of gearing up for the postseason for sports, for girls lacrosse looking to defend their third, to defend their state title, winning their 3rd championship, and I would say hopefully boys track team and boys tennis can pull through for a state championship among all the other team successes. And for the seniors, it is going to be a very busy 2 weeks leading up to graduation on the 2nd. Senior projects end throughout this week, and then marching practice and all of the senior festivities, from the senior breakfast at the Congregational Church to the senior cookout, senior walk, candlelight, and then graduation on the 2nd. Yeah, the next 2 weeks are pretty packed for all of the soon-to-be Greeley grads, and it's an exciting time. Bit nostalgic and sad as well, but there's definitely an excitement to celebrate and for the graduation season as a whole.
Great. Thanks so much, Tommy. And yes, a little sad it's your last one. So we have the Community Engagement Committee. Megan?
Community Engagement Committee wrapped up our final in-person event a week ago tonight at Valhalla, and it was fairly well attended. Steve Blatt and Pat Carroll presented and then took questions, and the audience had several questions. It was a good discussion. And the Engagement Committee is still focused on getting the word out about the new school project, so we will be soliciting volunteer help for door-to-door knocking. As Jeff and Leanne have said, the district website is an excellent place for information. I'm sorry that not everybody likes it, but it is pretty great and pretty beefy with wonderful FAQs, lots of graphics, great information. So if you run into people who want to know more, that is a fantastic resource. Thanks.
Great. Thanks, Megan. Tom, finance?
The budget passed at the meeting, so get out and vote early and often. Well, no, get out and vote early, or on June 11th.
Great. Thanks. And policy.
So we are tabling the first read of KI Visitors to School, which will be brought back to policy at our meeting tomorrow afternoon. The other first read that we have is for deletion EGAD-AR, and that IT and the librarians are going to work to update and move that to administrative rules and procedures, so it's no longer needed in the policy manual.
Great. Any questions on that? Okay. Facilities. Christina.
We had our last meeting, we met with the finance committee and learned all things finance having to do with the new school. It's very helpful, thank you. And our next meeting is June 7th. I believe it's our last meeting.
Great. I know lots of lasts coming up. Tom, curriculum.
So we had a good meeting a week ago. It's actually, you could watch the whole thing on the website. Because we were talking about the curricular impacts of the new school project. We heard some really exciting things. Some of the things that I liked hearing about were the outdoor learning opportunities that are going to come with the new school, flexible workspaces, and then most of all, the concept around learning in neighborhoods. There was a lot of excitement around that. I asked our guests what they were most excited about with the new project. The things I wanted to highlight were that it's purposely designed for little kids, and there's an opportunity here to build a building that matches the latest research on early childhood education. That there are opportunities for inclusion, including small group spaces and the ability to reach all students in different ways. The continued mentorship that will come from the one campus model. And then also returning fourth graders to elementary at Maple I. Wilson. So there's a lot of great stuff there if you want to watch the video. And the committee will be having its last meeting on June 3rd, and we'll be discussing Wabanaki education and any other loose ends any other topics that we want to address before the end of the year.
Great. And thank you for providing those highlights on the new school. I know sometimes we get so caught up in financing and site plans that you forget like what this means for the kids who are in the
So
space.
much more than a building.
Right.
Yeah. It's going to be a special place.
Thank you. Kim, equity.
So the Equity Committee has been having fun digging in and really getting to talk and learn about what is already going on in our district. So we did have, and Tim reported on this, our conversation with the librarians, the school librarians. Then we had a meeting where not a lot of people were able to attend, but we had some great conversation about professional development as well as how to teach sensitive topics and how to handle behavioral issues that involve racial slurs or other derogatory language. And coming out of that meeting, we realized it would be very beneficial to hear from the district leadership team about what is already in place in each of the schools and a chance to even share some of our observations and concerns. So we had a great meeting, not long enough. It was not long enough, but it was a great starting point to be able to hear from each of the school administrators and really an exhaustive list of things that are in place, and just kind of started that relationship so that they understand where we're coming from and how we hope to support the DLT as well as share things that we come upon, that we observe, that we discover in our committee. So that was a really great meeting. And we have one more meeting. We were supposed to meet this Wednesday, but because of the second year teacher recognition, we are moving that to next Wednesday, the 29th. And that is when, as a committee, we're going to dig into the Maine Integrated Youth Health Survey results as it pertains to equity, and just kind of wrap up for the year and think about what we can do next year. So that's where we're at.
Thanks, Kim. So next is any ad hoc committee reports.
Can I just mention that the Safety and Security Committee wrapped up its last meeting of the year, and Denny, certainly jump in if you have anything. And by design, that committee is a closed group, and so there's not a lot of communication, again, by design. But I will say that it's an excellent committee, very focused, many minds meeting on that committee, both from the community and the school. And there's a huge engine behind safety and security that may not be public, but is constantly running. And it's a very, very impressive group.
Thank you.
We also had the last wellness committee meeting of the year earlier this month, where we reported back to the group on the presentations to the board from both the Maine Integrated Health Survey and then also the nutrition presentations and how the board received those. And then just sort of did a little bit of brainstorming for where things are going to go next year. Some of it, will obviously depend on if we're doing when we're going to start a new strategic plan and what that would mean for the wellness committee. But overall it went well. And I will just say that I put a plug in that I hope that the district can bring back a mental health and substance use subcommittee of wellness.
Great, thank you. Other ad hoc committees?
I would just say it occurs to me that thinking about community partners and PTO, that there's another 5K opportunity coming up on Monday, Memorial Day 5K, and PTO will be organizing the fun run aspect of that, and I suspect may still be looking for volunteers, so if people are around to help out, please look for those opportunities, and otherwise maybe we'll see you out there running.
Thanks. Well, those of you at home probably might be wondering why we have a slide back up, because you didn't see that Zachary Vanny just came in. He sits and helps run our AV, and we just wanted to honor him with a congratulations as a National Merit Scholar. So congratulations and thank you. It's quite an honor.
No speech.
Looks like you just got back from a baseball game, huh? All right, so the last item is just communications, which is just a general open item, and I just want to put another plug in for just communications around the new school, and just as we continue to talk to our friends and neighbors and community members just about everything that they need to know about the school project to ensure that everyone feels like they have the information to be able to vote. Absentees are available now or June 11th. But as anybody who's been following along all year, it's certainly been quite a year leading up to this vote, and we feel that the work of the board and the administration and our architects has gone a long way to really meeting our needs as a district and a growing school community. And so I just appreciate everyone's time that they've spent in getting to this point, and now we have a few short weeks left to ensure that everyone has the information they need to hopefully support this referendum. So that's just what I had for communications. And if anything else, that's still sort of light out, so maybe we can move to adjourn in the daylight. Can I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Thank you, Megan. A second?
I'll second.
Great. Thanks, Kim. All in favor? All right. Unanimous. Go enjoy the last bits of light, and thank you.